Hey everybody, Brandon Mason here with Eastmans, and today on this review we're looking at not just 3 but 6 new layers from Kryptek for 2024. Well, like I mentioned, there is more than meets the eye to the mannequins that I have helping me out here on this review today. We're going to be looking at these 3 new layers that Kryptek is offering in their technical clothing line, and then underneath those layers, which you can kind of see peeking out from underneath, are some of their new base layers. But first, let's take a look at each one of these pieces separately and kind of how they have evolved in the Kryptek line and what is new about the features in them. So the first one is the ArmaLite half zip fleece. What this piece is, it can be used as either a base layer or a mid layer over top of a thinner base layer if you want to use it that way, especially for late season applications when you're layering up for a wide diversity of temperatures and conditions later on in the fall or in the spring, depending on what you're hunting. And what the ArmaLite half zip has to offer is it's a highly technical material that is masterful at wicking away moisture and keeping you dry. That's why it can be used as a base layer on its own. And so it's got a grid fleece pattern inside of it, but it isn't a heavy fleece pattern. And so for cool mountain mornings like we've been having right now, we're in September up in the high country, and the temperatures during the day get pretty warm, but in the evenings and in the mornings it gets pretty chilly. It can get down into the 40s or maybe even cooler depending on what year it is and what location you're at, what elevation you're at. And so it's a very useful layer for a wide range of temperatures and wide range of usages also. What I mean by that is you'll see on this piece, much like a lot of the Kryptek pieces, there are integrated pockets in just the right places. This particular pocket is on the left bicep sleeve, and pockets like that are really useful for keeping your mouth calls, especially for early season elk hunting. If you're running and gunning after turkeys in the spring, it's helpful for that. You can also keep an energy bar in there if you're ditching your pack and you're on the run stalking on an animal at last light. So as I said, this is a half zip layer, and you can see the zipper right here. So again, it increases ventilation capabilities. It's got a nice collar. It's not an oversized collar, but it's not a collar that's too short either. And so one of the things that I like a collared garment like this for is warmth when it's cold, but then also helps keep the sun off my neck during conditions like this where we're in midday sun. It's just beating down on you for hours on end, and it just kind of helps alleviate that. So again, this piece works well on its own individually, or it also works well with a lightweight, say, hooded layer like this that we're going to get into next, where you can wear this underneath, or their new merino wool base layers that you can wear underneath, which we're going to address here in just a second. The second piece in part of the new line from Kryptek, this isn't a new piece, but it's new to their hunting line. This is the Midnight Lump Hoodie, or the ML Tech Hoodie. Midnight Lump ML, that's what that stands for. The ML hoodie is such a useful garment in hot conditions. And so as you can see, it has an integrated face mask / neck gaiter, and it is a mesh front so that breathability during archery season, on big game or on turkeys where concealment is paramount, you can pull that hood up, shield your face, and have all that skin covered up so that there's no shininess of your skin that's going to show through. Also on this garment, you'll notice the mesh side panels, which just further add in breathability. And if you remember, I mentioned the left arm bicep pocket on the Arma half zip. Well, there's a left bicep pocket on the ML hoodie and a right bicep pocket on the ML hoodie. And not only do these pockets help store little pieces of gear that you may need, but you'll notice the pockets are also mesh. And so if you need to dump additional heat, simply unzip these bicep pockets, and that helps further regulate the heat. So you have mesh pocket or mesh panels here, mesh pockets on your biceps, and of course the mesh face mask that's on the front. Now, if you're a person that doesn't want the face mask, it's easy enough. You can simply tuck it behind your head, and so it's covering the back of your neck or down into your top shoulder area, and it's not right here in your face. I know some people don't like it, but I've worn hoodies over the years with this particular feature, and it is really handy for early archery season, especially if you happen to be hunting in bright sunlight like we're in the field today shooting these gear reviews. And I mean, this is real life. These are the conditions that we're out in, and it's really nice to shield that if you're not a person that wants to wear face paint when you're out in the field, especially on a backpacking trip where you got to wipe it off and everything. This is a perfect tool for that. Additional features of the ML hoodie is it's made of what's called like a cool touch technology from Kryptek. And so essentially what it does is the fabric itself makes you feel cooler temperature wise than what you are. And also it is a master at moisture wicking and breathability. And so you put this hoodie on, and even though if you haven't worn lightweight hoodies in warm weather, you may be thinking, why in the world would I want a hood up? Why would I want long sleeves? A lot of times with the right technical gear for warm weather like this, you actually stay cooler with your skin covered. Like right now, I'm just wearing an Eastmans t-shirt. My arms are really hot, but if I had this on, this would shield it. Also, it keeps the sun off your ears, off your head. In fact, a lot of times I take my ball cap off to further cool down and have just my lightweight hoodie up, and it's almost like having air conditioning on. Again, you can layer up with it to take you through the rest of the season if need be. Now the third piece in the 6 pieces that we're going to show you today, this one probably looks more familiar if you're at all familiar with the Kryptek line. This is the Dalibor jacket. Now the Dalibor is not new to the Kryptek line, but this rendition of the Dalibor jacket is. So Kryptek is continually improving. This particular piece has been tested for 2 field seasons in the harsh conditions in Alaska, where one of their founders, Butch Whiting, used to live, and it has proven itself. So it's got a DWR finish, which means it's a light water resistant, I should say, coating that's on the outside of the garment. And so let's just say you get caught in a surprise rainstorm, or you wanted to go ultralight, leave your rain gear back at camp, or not even take it with on a high mountain trip. This will shed the water really, really well for quite a while. Now, if you're in an absolute heavy torrential downpour, you know, you're going to want your rain gear with. But for most of the conditions in the arid Intermountain West, when we're up in the high country, we might get an afternoon, you know, rainstorm or thunderstorm, but it doesn't last very long. And if you can get in under a tarp or under some shelter, or even just be out in this, it'll beat up that water and it'll shed off you really with no problem. I've done this many times. A lot of the guys on our crew prefer a lightweight soft shell like this over a rain jacket because they're more comfortable to wear. They're much quieter. This has a fabric that is almost silent. And true to Kryptek form, again, with all this temperature regulation that they're integrating into their garments, they also have pit zips underneath to dump heat if you need to. And these are just, man, just a savior if you're active in your hiking and you don't want to take off the gear because you're on the move after an animal. A quick reach up, zip down on each underarm, and it starts dumping heat. They also have oversized hand warmer pockets. As you can see, I've mentioned in other gear reviews, I have pretty big hands. I can palm a regulation size basketball, and you can see the size of my hands going into this garment, and they just disappear all the way up to my forearm. And so very generous. And it also has the chest pocket here, which again is pretty generously sized to fit different accessories, calls, maybe your GPS unit, you know, your inReach device, your smartphone, whatever you want to put in there, it works really good. On the interior, there's not really a fleeced lining, but a soft polyester lining in there that it just helps that moisture stay off of your torso if you're really exerting yourself and getting after it when you're hiking up the mountain. And then the nice thing is too, when you're layering up with these layers, not only do they dry quickly, but when you finally get to your glassing point, or when you got to sit and wait out an animal and you have an arrow knocked and you're just sitting there waiting for them to make a move, you're not going to freeze because this stuff regulates your temperature and it's getting all that moisture out. Instead of, you know, we've all grown up doing this where you're hiking in t-shirts like this and your back gets soaking wet with sweat, and guess what? You're wet for the rest of the day and you're freezing when you're up on a high ridge. That doesn't happen with these pieces. It effectively dumps moisture, dumps heat, and then they're effective to layer up to add that warmth. And of course, Kryptek has a full line of puffy vests, puffy coats, rain layers, heavy duty fleece pieces, you name it. Go onto their website at kryptek.com and you can see the full line. And you know, one of the things that's kind of cool about Kryptek too, one of the things that's really popular right now is putting your own custom patches on top of Velcro pieces that are on garments, and the Dalibor has 2 of those. If you want just the Kryptek shield to be shown, and they already have that, and we here at Eastmans, we even have our own patches. We put them on those, we put them on our backpacks just to give it that little personal touch. Another feature of this jacket that I almost forgot to mention are the draw cords at the base. And so that allows you to cinch up this piece. So not only is it a quiet activewear piece, but it's also water resistant and windproof. It seals up those drafts from getting up under your jacket and making you colder, you know, when you don't want to be dumping heat. You can essentially seal it up. Now, I mentioned briefly this articulated hood, and what I mean by that is if you feel in this, there's a little bit of a bendable wire in the front of the hood, and so you can bend this up so the hood isn't drooping down in your face. It's basically structured right here, and you can make it whatever you want, and then it stays up. And because of the way it is cut, the hood does not shield your peripheral vision. You can actually still see, you can have the hood up, cover your head so that it's not getting wet, or if it's windy and you're getting cold, and it'll cover up basically the sides of your ears, but then you have peripheral vision. And so you can see really well with any, you know, these 2 hooded pieces on, or of course this one without the hooded piece, and it's just more functional. You can tell that the inventors of this gear spent time in the field with it. And like I mentioned, for 2 field seasons, this was tested up in the Alaska harsh conditions, and it's proven its valor. So now those are 3, and you can probably see from coming underneath these 3 that we have 3 more. Kryptek recently revamped their Merino wool line. Now their Merino wool line before was pretty good, but there's a couple features that were missing from some of their garments, and Kryptek, true to form, took feedback from people like us at Eastmans and all of you out there that use their gear. And they listened, and they not only made a softer, more comfortable merino wool, but they came out with a pair of boxers, and they added a fly to their boxer briefs, and then also their base layer pants, or long handles, you know, that they used to call them in the old days, and also to their top. Now their top is what is underneath the Dalibor. I'm going to take the Dalibor jacket off here for just a second and show this piece. And you can see just, it's not very windy out here today, and just a little bit of a wind is really blowing this around, which means it's really lightweight, really technical. And in this merino line, not only did they add a half zip to the piece for thermal regulation, but they got a larger collar on it, whereas their previous piece was more of a long sleeve tee and didn't have that. This has the collar, and so again, regulating temperature in extremes of hot and cold is helpful for that. But the reason why it's more comfortable is Kryptek has blended 2 natural fibers and 1 synthetic into 1 garment. And now this isn't anything new to the merino wool clothing line across the board in the industry, where they blend merino with other synthetics, because merino tends to, even though it's a superior thermal regulator and scent controller, it doesn't do well on its own at retaining its shape. It tends to, if it gets wet, it really stretches out, becomes really baggy. Well, with the new technologies that are being integrated, this not only has that little bit of spandex that like all socks have in it, or most socks have in them, previous renditions of merino wool pieces had in them, but they blended another natural fiber called Tencel. Now, if you're like me, you're like, I've never heard of Tencel before, and that definitely doesn't sound natural. Well, Tencel is kind of like the generic term, or the overall terminology, kind of like Kleenex is for tissues, or Xerox is for copy machines. That's what Tencel is for a process where they derive wood fibers through a process in a factory to transition it into a fabric so that it can be blended with things like merino wool. So you have a wood fiber base, which is as soft as cotton once it goes through this process. Soft as cotton, blended with merino wool, and it has a spandex to help retain its shape. You're talking about a garment that is supremely comfortable, is supreme at regulating temperature, and thermoregulation is just pleasant to wear as a standalone piece, or again, layering up. And so especially late season, my go-to would be to wear this Traverse quarter zip piece from Kryptek, and then I would go to a lightweight hoodie like this, and then I would put on either a soft shell or a puffy vest, and then either a soft shell jacket like the Dalibor or my rain gear, depending on what the conditions need. And then of course, getting into later seasons, you'd have to layer up with more insulated garments to complement your puffy jacket, like say a fleece layer, which again, Kryptek has those as well. Now we're gonna go to some of the base layers in the Traverse line that are on the bottoms. And again, I'm gonna undress this mannequin here. And then you'll notice that these boxer briefs are new to the Kryptek line, and again, made from that same merino wool, the tencel material, and spandex, all working together to deliver, again, thermal regulation. I keep saying that word, but it's so important, especially on these early season hunts where it's so cool in the morning and so warm during the middle of the day and then cool again at night. And so you don't want to get all sweated up and then freeze during your key glassing sessions. And then much like the merino, the Traverse merino boxers, we have the base layer pants, which have the same exact features as the boxers, only longer, of course. So full length base layers are epic for those glassing sessions like I keep talking about, early morning hours, late evening hours, late season hunting, and then even for sleeping in. A lot of times when I'm up in the high country in a lightweight shelter, I'll take off my pants like I have. Right now I have the Kryptek Valhalla pants on, which are pretty lightweight, but I still got everything in my pockets. I don't want to have to dump everything out of those. I'll take those off, lay them next to my sleeping pad, and then I'll just put on a pair of base layer pants like that to sleep in. So it kind of feels like you're wearing pajamas, I guess. And then it keeps your skin from sticking to the nylon material on most sleeping bags. So yeah, those are the 6 new pieces from Kryptek out of their line for 2024 that they've either added to their line or improved upon. And don't forget to check out their website at kryptek.com for more information on all these products. And as we always say, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because we are bringing gear review videos, podcasts, webisode series, everything you can imagine that is everything Western hunting to Eastman's Hunting Journals channels. And we got more than one, so make sure you check them all out, hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and then you won't miss out on any of the gear that we bring to you to help us all be more comfortable in the field, be more effective in the field for that short time that is the fall that we all look forward to so much.